a good constrained morning. Constraints, project constraints, human constraints. This planet constraints. Constraint is a limit on the options you can have. And constraints are found, derived, defined things, and you can turn them into measurable, well-defined things and look at them and see how well they're working for you. A form of constraints might be a speed limit sign. Basically, if you've driven for a while, you pull out of the driveway taking for granted there are speed limits around your house. It might be 110 miles an hour, and yet you consciously have some idea of what a speed limit sign is, and that could be termed a constraint in your life. It could slow you down getting to the hospital, or it could help keep somebody from getting run over in a neighborhood, right? Constraints, very nuanced word depending on where you put it or place it. In program and project methodologies, if you want to get into the professional side of this is a thing called Program Management Body of Knowledge. It's a reference library, and it's also a copyright now. But these set up methodologies for global systems, global organizations and entities to work together to achieve a goal. So an engineering house here in, no, we don't do engineering hardly anymore unless it's nuclear shit or going to space. We have fumbled the engineering ball in America, but regardless, now you have a purchasing agent in America who has a package for a bill of materials, a doodad that he thinks you want to buy. And he goes and looks for bidders for it that are qualified. Those bidders are across the globe. This is a purchasing agent sitting probably at home now, working home alone. But he's a professional and he knows the constraints of his business. So he's going after good, reasonably qualified, blah, blah, blah. He's got constraints. His constraints are the bottom line. This is Walmart's business model. How to overcome constraints in the current processes. You go write laws, you get tax laws, you get tax write-offs that remove financial constraints, or you have poor science done by meddling in the middle and causing doubt and consternation and making sure someone's going to get rich. So constraints, very programmatic project management systems type of word, because you evaluate constraints. You call them risks, you call them delays, you call them schedule setbacks, you call them, what's the other terms for this? Risks and issues. And you sit around for some time in little rooms and talk about the definitions of a risk versus an issue. You define escalation procedures so that if an item needs attention, it gets sent to the right people with the right appropriate supporting materials to make a decision with. So big decisions. It's part of the Walmart way. Walmart invented a new way that was technically illegal in the US of competitive bidding projects, or competitive bidding the plastic shit on their shelves to China and any place else overseas with cheap labor. It was how to get around the constraints of the cost of working in America. So this constraint concept, again, program methodologies, ideas, part of ISO methodologies that drive industry and standards. So when the big guys buy good steel, it's what they asked for. When you buy the plastic stuff off the Walmart shelf, it's what they think you wanted. So, constraints. General topic of not conversation. Very subtle things that you have to rationalize out. You cannot put a 0 or 1 on the word constraints But what's driving those constraints? You can go drive to a 0 or 1 or yes or no decision. Or maybe it's 35 miles an hour instead of 45 miles an hour in a neighborhood decision. There are people doing these methodological things throughout our lives next to us. This is the purpose of government, is to be able to keep these things in checks and balances, give them reasonable constraints to move, a state, a county, a person, a peoples, a group, a community, a nation, a globe together. So nature drives us, not the other way around. We can affect nature, that we know, can't deny. Good Labor Days. Peace is out, folks.